What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jesse Lima, and I'm here making a video just to show you guys how to cut your hair if you have SMP, and you're not really too crazy about shaving your head completely bald. First thing, you want to understand the clippers that you're using. You want to make sure that you're using a clipper that has a lever like this, so you could raise your blade and lower your blade so that you could create the lengths that you need to give yourself a fade. So with this haircut right here in particular, we're going to be doing about a quarter on the top, which is basically the second notch on these clippers. These clippers here are the Wireless Andis Masters. A great clipper, very strong, very reliable. So by starting to cut the hair from the front of the head and working your way to the back of the head, that's called cutting against the grain. This is the way that you want to cut the hair to make sure that you get a nice even cut. Make sure that when you're passing the clippers, you're passing it nice and evenly all over the top of the head to make sure there's no little streaks or no little mohawkish hairs sticking up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and close that lever all the way up to make sure that my blades are touching. And what's gonna happen now is I'm in the 000 position, so it's gonna cut a lot shorter. So notice how where I'm flicking at is pretty much at that level where the front hairline is, at that height. And what I'm doing is I'm just blending into the stubble that I left, from the quarter on the top to the 000 on the sides. And by flicking the scalp, you're not going to create any lines. You're just going to blend right into it. Next, I went ahead and I grabbed my Gold FX wireless outliners. And what I'm doing now is I'm flicking pretty much in the same area that I was prior to that, but making sure that you flick even more. This is called a C-stroke pattern. And what that allows you to do is to be able to blend in to the lengths. And then now you'll be able to go ahead and just shave the sides of the head completely and without creating any other lines, because you already blended in at the top to what you were supposed to do. Being that this is such a short haircut, going from a quarter on top down to the 000 on the sides, it's pretty easy to be able to blend it through and not create no lines. Make sure that you brush the scalp really good to get hair off of the scalp so like that doesn't leave any lines or shadows or anything. So what I'm doing here now is I got my Braun Series 9 electric shavers. These are great powerful shavers, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna shave the sides all the way down to the skin. Notice how I was flicking pretty much at the height where the edges were, and by flicking it, you're blending in now from the skin to the stubble that the edges were making. So here's a little trick. If you flip the edges the other way around and you start to flick at the skin the way I'm doing it right now on the scalp, this isn't going to hurt them at all, right? Because your edges aren't set super sharp. So what you're going to do is you're just going to flick at it pretty much to where the balders and the edges left off to eliminate any lines that may have been left because of the balders. So then now we're just going to continue the same exact steps along the back of the head and the other side of the head. So remember, first we got the clipper set to the second mark, right, which was at the quarter, and you're cutting that at the top. Then you're going to close it all the way, so now you're at the 000, and then you're going to be flicking right under there, right under the length that you had left. And then after you do that, you'll switch to your edges. Then you start to flick right under where you left off with the 000 of the Masters, blending that in, and then shaving off all the excess hair that was left at the bottom. And then once you shave that off real good, nice and clean, make sure there's no little streaks of hair or anything like that. Remember, brushing the hair is going to help you see what you left or what you didn't leave, and make sure that's a nice and clean surface. And then once you do that, then you can go ahead and grab your shavers again and then clean off the rest of the head. Now, if you don't have clippers that have those notches like the Masters do, right, what you want to do is just open the blade all the way open by bringing the lever down. Then find the midpoint, and then once you find the midpoint, find the in-between from the middle to the all the way close, and that's the quarter. That's the size that I did on the top of his head. So, understand too that depending on the style of SMP that you got done, the texture of the person's hair, how thick it is or how thin it is, it does vary the lengths that you're going to leave on the top, of course. So with him, for instance, since he has really thick hair follicles and he has really dark hair follicles, I was able to shave it down really close to where it's almost bald, and it still looked like he has pretty much a fade. It looks like he has like a half on top skin bald fade, right? So another reason why I like to do this, and I like to leave the little stubble really, is because it takes away that shininess, that glare from that smooth bald head, right? And then it also makes the SMP look more realistic by giving it some texture. So when somebody looks at SMP, when SMP is done correctly, it's supposed to look be undetectable. And of course, if you have a little bit of texture up there, nobody's ever going to notice. Now, you never want to leave long textured hair with the stubble of with the impressions from the SMP, because you're going to notice the big difference. It's going to look like you have an area with hair, and then right next to it you shaved it, and now you got little stubbles poking out of the scalp. So at the end of the day, scalp micropigmentation is going to be the most natural looking solution for hair loss, being that, you know, we're able to create these little impressions that look just like little stubble on the head. And of course, depending on the style of the haircut that you have, or the balding pattern that you have, you know, depends on how realistic we can make it look. And being that, like for instance, myself, I've been a barber for over 22 years, master barber at that, and I'm an artist by nature my whole entire life. So I know how to mimic the hair follicles to make them look the way it needs to look for the hairstyle that you want, or that you're able to have depending on your balding pattern. Now, if you have a beard and you want to blend it into the bald fade, what you do is you open your blade all the way open, right to the longest point, and then about midway of the ear, you start to trim right from there up. Don't just dig right into the beard and create a line. Just slightly work your way into it, and then little by little close the guard so that you get to the 000. And as you're closing it step by step, you're going up a little bit higher in the beard until you reach the skin. Then you could brush off the hairs, of course, to make sure the skin is nice and clean. And then with the edges, just slightly clean up the top. Now, since we didn't shave him completely bald head with a razor blade, right, he has a little bit of peach fuzz on his forehead that grows. So all I'm doing is just following the SMP work that he has to make the hairline pop. Now you can see in the before picture how you can tell the difference between his hair and his SMP. And then after we faded them up and cleaned them up, now it all looks nice and even and blended out. Now, if you like what you saw, I do offer a 3-day intensive scalp micropigmentation course with a live model that you actually get to work with. And I have a kit that provides you with everything that you need in order to do SMP. I provide you with everything that I use. No beginner stuff, just the best equipment, needles, inks, everything that we need to be able to do SMP properly and to give the best results out there. I want to thank you guys again for watching. And if you like what you saw, again, just go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, comment, and let me know what you think. If you guys have any other questions, man, drop some comments and I'll make sure that I can answer and help you out with everything you need. Another thing, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. We got 6EMP Micro and at Jesse Lima, JESSELIMA.